disciplinary hearing held pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 138, Sections 23 and 64, and Chapter 140, Sections 9 and 185C, as to Sunset Café Incorporated, doing business as Sunset Café for alleged violations of Mass General Laws, Chapter 135-15A, failure to apply for and be approved for change of officers, directors of a licensed corporation. Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 23, transfer of privilege of a license without approval. Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 26, operating without an approved manager and/or changing manager without approval.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Colin, C-O-L-I-N, Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
Mr. Smith, are you an attorney?
I am.
And you're here representing?
I represent the corporation, and I also represent Irene Pereira, as she is the personal representative for the estate of Fernando Castanera. And her mother, who is the Mrs. Castanera, who is the heir to Fernando. So that sounded more complicated than it needed to be. Basically, Fernando Castanera died in December of 2012. He was the manager, as a matter of statute, as a matter of this board's action. He also was the sole shareholder and the sole officer. His surviving brother has been running the premises on basically a de facto sort of basis. The several applications that have existed since then all have had the deceased name pre-printed as the manager. We have been going back and forth with David and his counsel for 3 years, 3 months about the situation. And
I'm sorry, David being the brother?
David being the brother who has de facto been operating the premises. And in November of this year, Irene Pereira somewhat reluctantly signed the application as personal representative, sole officer, and sole director. And I say reluctantly because she is not in control of the day-to-day operations, and doesn't really have any control of it.
Has there been any change to Sunset Café Inc.?
I beg your pardon?
Any legal change to Sunset Café Inc.?
No, it's the same corporation. I've submitted certified copies of the Articles of Organization. I've submitted certified copies of, I believe, every single annual report that exists on the records of the Secretary of State. Since Fernando was deceased, I have submitted officer and director annual statements on behalf of Irene Pereira. And I've submitted votes of both the shareholder and votes of the officer with the proposed application.
So why hasn't there been a change with regard to this? I mean, I'm sorry that Mr. Castanera passed away, but that happened in 2012, and our laws are our laws, and this should have been done.
I understand that, and I can't speak really for David Castanera or his counsel Caroline Conway or his counsel William Mayer. I have understood that David may have a Corey problem. There's a lot of correspondence from me saying, how are you coming on that problem? Do you have any solution? Okay. At this stage, my clients have come to the determination that they want to go into inactive status with the board's permission, and they want to sell the premises and whatever sale of the license is possible.
And I apologize because, quite frankly, I went through this file, but I couldn't find it. Does the estate agreement say anything with regard to this license or this business?
It is intestate. There's no
Okay.
estate agreement. So everything went to the mother, who's in her 80s, who is not fluent in English, who's never been in the liquor business.
Okay.
And it's a subchapter S, so at some point after 2 years, she signed a return and became, for IRS purposes, the shareholder as opposed to the estate. The real estate premises, not to get too complicated, but the real estate premises is held in the name of a trust, which was set up by Carlos, David, and Fernando in the 1990s. And it provides that upon the sale of, upon the death of a beneficiary, the trust must be terminated. So the real estate is going to vanish where the premises is. And frankly, the operation hasn't been one that's really economic. So it's one thing for two brothers who own the real estate and are running the restaurant. If they want to not pay themselves rent, that's fine. But it doesn't work the way it's constituted now. And from a liability standpoint, it doesn't work for these two people who are not in the liquor business. And it's a lot of liability, and they're not in control. They don't know what the tax returns are. They don't have any background on them.
I'm actually going to stop you because the more you say, the worse you're making this case, quite frankly. To be frank, the cases like this, particularly when viewed by the ABCC, licenses are suspended indefinitely until this is corrected, and they can even be revoked. This is one of the biggest no-nos of liquor laws. And stuff like that, and seeing how this has been going on since 2012, and I understand that you're telling us now that you want to put it in an active status, and I get that, but quite frankly, I don't know that even if you come tomorrow with an application to transfer or sell this license, I mean, it seems like state-wise there needs to be a lot of legwork to do that first. So, I mean...
Well, it's the stock belongs to the people that I represent.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been silent partners, sort of hoping that their brother, son would, come in with a proposal that would be satisfactory to the board. He hasn't done so, and now they're on the application.
But what should have happened, but they're not. This is the thing. This license is currently, right now, in the name of a deceased person. This license shouldn't even be active at this point. And there should have been a transfer to either the trustee of the estate or something, so that this could continue, and then you can, for lack of a better term, clean up what's been going on family-wise.
Well, the statute does suggest that in the case where somebody has passed away, there is some deference to
Absolutely,
the estate.
yes, and there should be deference, but this happened in 2012. I think deference has come and gone.
I frankly agree, and frankly, we were trying to preserve the business for David.
Mhm.
And, it's not been any secret that David that Fernando was deceased. I did...
What would be the timeline for this to be resolved?
Well, I did talk to Ralph Zeckerman about this, and I have talked to two people at the DOR. From a standpoint of technicalities,
Mhm.
I think the biggest technicality right now is having enough of a DOR release of lien or certificate to satisfy the ABCC, assuming that you were...
So we also have DOR issues?
I don't believe, well, I don't know that there's any amount owed. I doubt very much that there's any significant amount owed. It may be that there's a tax return that hasn't been filed as of last September. I have no reason to believe there's any amount owed, and if it was owed, it would be something like, less than $5,000. So this is not a situation where there's some great tax lien that nobody has the money to pay.
Okay. So again, when do you expect, what would be the timeline that you say this would be all dotted i's, crossed t's.
Well, I would think that if I could straighten something out with the DOR in a month, to have that certificate, then I could say with a complete application,
Has the certificate been requested?
yes.
When was it requested?
Well, maybe a week ago. And I talked to Deborah Hess today, and I talked to Ralph last week, and faxed Deborah Hess last week, so I mean, it's working on it, and been working with the accountant for literally months to try to have tax returns filed and have enough material so my clients could sign them. So this has not been, when we got this violation letter, we pretty much had this application in hand and filed it within a few days after getting the violation letter. So definitely this has been something I've been working on for 3 years, but especially working on the license part of it since November.
So is it unrealistic to expect this to be resolved in the next 6 months?
Yes.
It is unrealistic, or it is realistic
I think it's quite realistic to resolve it.
in the 6 months?
I in fact have an offer that was unsolicited. I mean, I think from the standpoint of having somebody who would like to purchase the real estate and the license as part of that, I don't think that's a hard thing to do. I would suppose there might be some problem in the probate court if I had an objection from David. But I think if with the status of the license, if David doesn't have a restaurant to operate, I think I can do things indirectly that maybe I couldn't do directly. So I think it's unlikely I get held up in probate court. I have an action pending in probate court in equity, which I filed in December 14, in which David is a defendant. So, my clients, they have been generous in time to their brother and their son, but they haven't been sitting on their hands. Each year the commission has pre-printed another application with Fernando's name on it. I mean, I've been kind of, holding my breath for David and giving David a chance to try to put something together. There's no, other than family, ties, there's been no, laches or laziness on the part of my clients. They're trying to deal with a situation that wasn't their making. And they're in this reluctantly. This is not where they want to be. In other words, the delay here was for good motives. And there hasn't been anything, as far as I know, untoward happen at the premises in the interim.
So is the restaurant still in operation?
Oh, yes.
Yet the license is in the name of somebody that's been deceased for over 3 years.
Correct.
That's a problem.
I remember there was a time, and I can't place the time frame, when it was actually an ongoing dispute where the restaurant was closed. There was a dispute between who the owners were, and I just don't remember when that occurred. I just remember there was, somehow we got involved in it, and then we referred it back to the license commission. And
Yes, the brother-in-law had been on the license, and there was fighting between the
Right.
brother-in-law and the brothers, so he's,
they locked one of the owners out, or locked one of the people
Something
who were
like
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened was the stock was pledged to the brother-in-law. He sold it to somebody. He came to you and said, do a trespass order. You
Right.
said, we won't serve it.
Right.
He went to court. The party settled it.
Okay.
So it basically,
Do you remember when that occurred? So that must have occurred after the...
I would say about 2007.
Oh, that long ago?
That
Yeah.
was a long time.
Really?
So basically, we've got the father died in the early 90s.
Mhm.
Then we've got the brother-in-law and the two brothers run
Mhm.
it for 10 years. Then the two brothers buy out the brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
They don't pay for it. There's a collection proceeding which really brought you into it at one
Mhm.
point when there's another owner in there.
Mm-hmm.
They resolve that, and so then you have the two brothers running it from 2004, 2008,
Mhm.
2009, something in there, to 2015. One brother deceased 3 years ago. So that's it. I mean, that's the timeline for what it's worth.
I mean, I'm ready to vote to suspend this license indefinitely at this time, just based on the law and past cases similar to this before the ABCC. But I mean, if the commissioners want to take it under advisement and then we vote on it in the next meeting, that's fine too.
I'm prepared to vote.
Could I speak for a moment? I would suggest that if you went on, if you did what I asked in the statement at the close of it, and directed that David has no authority to act and it goes into inactive status, it suspends it, basically as quickly as you want to. It's the same as a revocation.
No, I mean suspended indefinitely right now.
Yeah.
Like, meaning you,
Close the place.
someone will go today and say you need to get out of here today, basically.
So, and all I'm asking is, I ask you to exercise your discretion to do inactive instead of suspension.
No, because quite frankly, this has been like this since 2012. And I am giving deference not only to, this situation, but also the past, I mean, I'm sure this is not the first time the board has seen this. And huh?
I'll take the motion. I make a motion that the license be suspended indefinitely.
I second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.